The monster in the cage, the forest was quiet. Too quiet. Kayla moved slowly through the trees. Her long purple fingers clutched a sharp rock. She didn't know what it was called, only that it made her feel less helpless. Her silver hair was tangled, and her skin was marked with cuts from branches. She hadn't eaten for 2 days. Her escape pod had crashed in these woods. She was the only one who got out alive. Now, she was alone, on a death world called Earth. Kayla had heard of humans before. Her people called them beasts, creatures with short lives and violent minds. Stories said humans hunted for fun, smiled when they killed, and tamed wild monsters just to show power. And now, she heard footsteps, heavy ones. Crunch, crunch. She dropped to the ground, hiding behind a thick log. Her heart pounded. Her gills flared. Then she saw him. A human. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore strange black clothes. Mud covered his boots. His face had a short beard and his eyes were sharp, but not angry. Curious. He looked around, then whistled. That's when Kayla saw it. A giant beast walked behind him, 4 legs, glowing yellow eyes, long teeth hanging from its mouth. Its fur was dark brown. It sniffed the air and growled. Kayla gasped. Her hands shook. He's found me, she whispered. He brought his monster. The human turned in her direction. He paused. The beast stared straight at her hiding spot. Kayla stood up slowly, holding the rock like a weapon. Her knees were weak. The human raised a hand. Hey, it's okay. Don't be scared. The alien girl didn't understand all the words, but his tone was soft. She didn't move. The beast stepped closer. She screamed, "No! Stay away!" The human quickly grabbed the beast by its collar. "Easy, bear, sit." To Kayla's shock, the monster obeyed. It sat down like a trained child. The human stepped forward and knelt slowly. "Don't worry," he said gently, pointing to the beast. "He won't bite." Kayla's eyes were wide. She didn't believe him, but the creature did nothing. Kayla trembled. Is it caged?" The man shook his head. "No cage. He's free. He listens because he trusts me." Kayla looked confused. Her people never tamed creatures like that. They only used pain to control beasts. "Why not lock him up?" she asked in broken English. The human smiled. "Because he's not a monster. He's family." Kayla's knees gave in, and she sat on the cold ground. The human reached into his pack and offered her a small sealed bag. She didn't know what it was, but her stomach growled loud. She snatched it, untrusting, and opened it carefully. A sweet smell filled the air. Food. Real food. She took a bite. It tasted like heaven. The human smiled. "See? Not poisoned." Kayla frowned. "Why help me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat beside the beast, patting its head. The creature leaned into his touch, eyes half closed. It didn't look dangerous now, it looked loyal. "My name's Jack," he said finally. "I live nearby. You crash-landed, right?" Kayla hesitated. "Yes." "You got a name?" "Kayla," she said quietly. "Well, Kayla," Jack said, standing up and offering his hand. "You look like you need a warm place and a blanket. I got both." She didn't move. He pointed to his monster. "Bear will walk beside us. He won't touch you unless I say, and I won't let him hurt you." Kayla stared at the beast. Bear. It watched her but didn't move. Its yellow eyes were calm now, not wild. Slowly, carefully, Kayla stood. Jack waited. Her hand twitched. But then she reached out and touched his hand. He helped her up gently as they walked through the forest. Bear walked beside her, silent. She glanced at the creature. It didn't growl, it didn't bare its teeth. Maybe it really wouldn't bite. But Kayla wasn't sure yet. She looked up at the sky. Stars peeked through the trees. She had escaped one nightmare. Now she was in a new one. But for some reason, this nightmare felt warmer. As they disappeared into the trees, the last thing she heard was Jack's voice, soft and calm. "Don't worry. You're safe now." The beast's eyes. Kayla didn't sleep much that night. Even though the small, wooden cabin was warm and quiet, her mind couldn't rest. She lay curled on a soft blanket in the corner of the room. Every time the wind brushed against the windows or a log cracked in the fire, she flinched. But it wasn't the wind or fire that kept her awake. It was the eyes, those glowing yellow eyes. The beast bear lay only a few steps away in front of the fireplace. Its massive body was stretched out, chest rising and falling with each calm breath. But even when it slept, Kayla swore it was watching her. She'd seen creatures like that, in war zones used as weapons by soldiers trained to kill. But this one let her sit in the same room, no cage, no chains, just freedom. It didn't make sense. Kayla sat up and wrapped the blanket tighter around her thin body. Her thoughts raced. Why would a predator stay calm? Why wouldn't it attack while she was weak? She turned her head slightly and found those yellow eyes staring right back. She froze. The beast had opened them silently. It didn't growl. It didn't move. It just watched her. Kayla's voice shook. "You're not sleeping?" Bear blinked. Then, slowly, it laid its head back down. Kayla shivered. Morning came. The human, Jack, moved around the cabin whistling softly as he prepared food. He handed her a warm cup with something sweet inside. It smelled like safety. "Did you sleep?" he asked with a smile. Kayla looked down. "Not much." Jack followed her gaze to Bear. He chuckled. "He's a bit scary, I know. Big guy, but he's more bark than bite." Kayla stared. "Why does he listen to you?" Jack thought for a moment. "Because I listen to him." She didn't understand. "See?" he said, sitting beside her. "When Bear growls, I pay attention. When he gets scared, I slow down. He knows I don't want to hurt him, so he trusts me." Kayla looked at Bear again. The beast was now sitting beside the door, tongue hanging out lazily. "I thought trust came from power," she whispered. Jack shook his head. "Real trust comes from kindness." Later that day, Jack took her outside. The air was cold, but the sun was out. Snow covered the trees. Kayla walked slowly, her bare feet wrapped in thick cloth he had given her. Jack chopped wood nearby while Bear wandered the clearing. Kayla sat on a rock watching the two of them. She noticed something strange. Bear didn't act like a weapon. He didn't bark at squirrels or chase birds. Instead, he sniffed the snow, rolled in it, and sometimes came back to check on Jack. Every time he did, Jack smiled and patted his head. The beast wagged its tail. Kayla's mouth parted in surprise. This wasn't a monster. This was a friend? Bear turned and trotted toward her. Her breath caught in her throat. He stopped a few feet away, sat down, and tilted his head. Kayla held still. Very slowly, Bear stretched his neck forward and dropped. Something at her feet, a stick. Kayla blinked. Is this a gift?" Jack laughed from behind. "He wants to play fetch." "Fetch?" she repeated. "Throw it. He'll bring it back." She hesitated, then picked up the stick. Bear's tail wagged. She threw it, softly. Bear raced after it and brought it back, dropping it again in front of her feet. He looked at her expectantly. She laughed, a quiet, unsure laugh. "See?" Jack said, walking over. "Told you. He won't bite." Kayla bent down, picked up the stick again, and touched Bear's fur, just for a second. It was soft, warm, alive, and not dangerous, not anymore. That evening, Kayla sat near the fire again, but this time she wasn't curled up in fear. She was sitting upright, sipping another warm drink, watching Jack sharpen tools and Bear chew on a bone. Jack looked up. "You're getting more comfortable." Kayla nodded. Still scared, but less. That's enough, he said kindly. One day at a time. She looked at Bear. He watched me last night. He's protective, Jack explained. If he sees someone scared, he keeps an eye on them, to make sure they're okay. Kayla smiled softly. For the first time in her life, someone, or something, was watching over her. Not as a target, but as a protector. Maybe humans weren't what the story said. Maybe the real monsters were the ones who taught her to fear. Learning to trust. The first time Kayla touched Bear without fear, she didn't even realize it. She had dropped a small metal tool by the cabin door. As she bent down to pick it up, her hand brushed his thick fur. Her fingers stopped, expecting a snarl, a snap, something dangerous. But Bear only wagged his tail. Kayla stared, frozen. She had touched the monster, and nothing bad had happened. In fact, it felt warm. Days passed slowly after that. Jack showed her how to make simple food from Earth's plants. He gave her clean clothes, human clothes, and helped her wash the blood and dirt from her skin. Her soft purple color returned to her cheeks. Each morning, Bear greeted her by placing his huge head in her lap. The first time, Kayla almost screamed. But Jack just laughed. That's how he says hello, he said. Kayla placed a shaky hand on Bear's head. Hello, she whispered. The beast closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. Jack didn't ask many questions. He didn't demand her story. But one night, as they sat near the fire, Kayla spoke. I wasn't born free, she said quietly. Jack looked up but didn't interrupt. My people, they sell the weak, the ones who don't look perfect. I was too small. My skin was wrong, so they gave me to traders. She stared into the flames. They told me humans would eat me if I ever escaped. Jack's hand tightened around his mug. I'm sorry. Kayla turned to him. Why are you not like the stories? He smiled, sadly. Maybe because stories forget we're more than teeth and fists. The next morning, Jack took her deeper into the forest. He wanted to teach her something new. This, he said, pointing at a tall tree, is maple. Its sap makes sweet syrup. Kayla touched the bark. You take food? From trees? Jack nodded. Nature gives a lot. We just have to be gentle. He showed her how to tap the tree, collect the sap, and boil it into something sweet. She tasted it, and her eyes lit up. It's good, she laughed. Jack grinned. Told you. Bear barked once, then ran in circles like a puppy. Kayla watched the human and his beast playing under the trees. The scene was strange, yet beautiful. No cages, no shouting, just laughter and open space. She realized something then. This wasn't a trap. This was freedom. That evening, Kayla stood near the edge of the woods staring up at the stars, her arms wrapped around herself. Jack walked over. Cold, she shook her head. Just thinking. About home? She nodded. I don't miss it. Jack waited. My people never let me feel safe. Here. I'm not sure yet, but I breathe easier. Jack's voice was gentle. Then maybe it's time to stop surviving and start living. Kayla looked up at him. I don't know how. You're already learning, he said, placing a hand over hers. Later that night, Kayla had a nightmare. She woke up gasping, eyes wide, body shaking. Shadows of chains and screaming filled her mind. But she wasn't alone. Bear was beside her, pressing his large body against her legs. Jack entered the room holding a blanket. Without a word, he sat beside her, handed her water, and waited. Kayla buried her face into the blanket. It's hard. I know, Jack whispered. I don't want to be scared forever. You won't be. She looked up at him, her eyes glassy. Promise? Jack smiled. I don't make promises, but I'll walk with you until you stop shaking. Kayla reached out and pulled Bear into a hug. The beast didn't resist. Days turned into weeks. Kayla now walked freely through the trees, Bear at her side. She helped Jack collect firewood, boiled water, and even learned a few words in Earth's strange language. She built her own bed from soft branches. She laughed when Bear chased birds. She painted strange symbols on the walls, stories from her old culture, stories with new endings. In one, a girl meets a beast and learns to trust. One day, as Kayla sat in the sun with Bear resting against her, she whispered, "I think I was wrong about you." Bear looked up with his big golden eyes. "And I think I was wrong about me too." She looked up as Jack stepped out of the cabin, waving. For the first time in her life, she waved back with a real smile. The visitor from the sky, it started with a shadow. Kayla stood in the clearing, hanging wet clothes on a rope when the sun disappeared behind a moving shape in the sky. She looked up. A dark ship hovered above the trees, silent, watching. Her heart stopped. She knew that design, curved metal with black wings like a hunting bird. That was her people's ship. They had come for her. Inside the cabin, Jack stirred his soup as Bear chewed a thick bone. But the moment the shadow passed, Bear growled low, ears up, body tense. Jack grabbed his rifle and opened the door. Kayla ran toward him. "They're here," she whispered, breathless. "My people found me." Jack didn't panic. He looked at the sky, then at her. "You want to run?" he asked. Kayla looked at the trees, the snow, the place she now called home. Then back at Jack. "No," she said. "Not this time." The ship landed just outside the clearing. A powerful hum echoed through the ground. Trees bent slightly under the pressure. A door opened. 4 armored aliens stepped out. Tall, cold-eyed, guns strapped to their arms. Their uniforms bore the symbol of the Syndicate, the same empire that once called Kayla defective. One of them, a pale gray commander, stepped forward. His voice was hard. "Kayla of Sector 12, you are a fugitive. You will return now or face punishment." Kayla stood still. Jack stepped between her and the soldiers. His voice was calm but firm. "She's not going anywhere." The aliens laughed. "This isn't your matter, human. Step aside before we remove you." Jack didn't move. Bear stood beside him, fur raised, a low growl in his throat. Kayla walked forward slowly, placing her hand on Jack's arm. "Let me talk." Jack nodded and stepped back. She faced the commander. "I am not your property. You are a Syndicate failure. You belong to the reclamation program. I belong to no one." The commander raised a hand. "Seize her." The 2 soldiers stepped forward. Bear roared. In one flash of motion, the beast leapt forward, knocking one of the guards to the ground. Jack fired his weapon in the air. "Enough!" But the aliens returned fire, shooting strange electric nets. Kayla screamed. "Stop!" One net hit Jack's shoulder. He dropped with a grunt. Bear howled and charged again, this time grabbing the net and tearing it apart. Kayla's eyes burned with rage. "No more cages," she whispered. She reached into her coat and pulled out the small device Jack had helped her fix days ago. A Syndicate override unit. She pressed the button. The device sent a sharp pulse of energy that jammed the aliens' weapons. The guards froze. Kayla stepped between them and Jack's unconscious body. "You see me as broken," she said loudly. "But I've learned something. You fear freedom." The commander raised a blade. Bear growled and stood between them. "You want to take me?" Kayla hissed. "Then come through him." For a long second, no one moved. Then the commander backed away. "This planet makes you foolish," he said. "But we will return." The ship lifted into the air, rising like a ghost into the clouds. Silence returned. Kayla knelt beside Jack, checking his pulse. It was strong. Bear whined and licked Jack's cheek. "Come on, human," she whispered. "Don't let them win." After a moment, Jack opened one eye. "Did we win?" Kayla smiled. "You got shot. Again." Jack chuckled. "Still better than working Mondays." That night, Kayla sat beside the fire holding Jack's hand. "They'll come back," she said. Jack nodded. "Let them. I don't want to run." Then we stand. Kayla looked at Bear, sleeping peacefully beside the door. They called him a monster, she whispered. But today, he was my shield. Jack squeezed her hand. You've got a monster on your side now. Kayla looked into the flames, heart still racing, but her spirit calm. She wasn't alone anymore, and she would never be caged again. The bite that never came. Kayla expected blood. She expected screams, snarls, and the snapping of jaws. But when Bear lunged at the alien soldier, something strange happened. He didn't bite. He pinned the armored guard to the ground with powerful paws and growled deep from his chest, but he didn't sink his teeth in. His eyes locked onto Kayla's, waiting, watching. It was like he was asking her, "Do you want me to?" And in that moment, Kayla understood something. The beast that once terrified her would never hurt without her word. He wasn't just protecting Jack, he was protecting her. The alien soldier beneath Bear struggled, but didn't scream. His gun had fallen a few feet away. His fingers reached for it. "Don't," Kayla said firmly. The soldier froze. Jack groaned behind her, still half conscious from the electric net. She ran to him, dropping to her knees, checking his pulse again. His eyes fluttered open. "You okay?" he asked, voice hoarse. She nodded, eyes glossy. "You almost died." He chuckled weakly. "You should see the other guy." She glanced over. Bear was still holding the soldier down, but now with less force. Kayla stood, walked over slowly, and knelt beside them. She looked the soldier in the eye. "My people called me broken," she whispered. "But maybe I was just untrained, untamed. Like him." She stroked Bear's back. "Let him go," she said softly. Bear obeyed instantly. The soldier sat up, gasping, but Kayla wasn't finished. She picked up the gun and threw it into the fire. "If you come back here with chains again," she said, "this time he will bite." The remaining syndicate soldiers didn't wait. Their ship rose into the sky, engines glowing, leaving deep scars in the snow. Kayla watched until it vanished through the clouds. Then she turned and saw Jack trying to sit up, one hand on his wounded shoulder. "You idiot," she scolded him, gently pushing him back down. "Glad to see you're feeling brave," he said, smiling. She looked at Bear, who sat down beside Jack, panting. "I'm not brave," she said. "I'm just done running." That night a storm rolled over the mountains. The cabin walls shook under the wind, and lightning lit up the sky outside. But inside the fire burned warm and steady. Kayla sat beside Jack, wrapping his shoulder in clean cloth. Bear slept at their feet, nose twitching with soft dog dreams. "Why, didn't Bear bite him?" Kayla asked suddenly. Jack sipped his tea. "Because he knows the difference between fear and threat. That's what I taught him." Kayla stared into the fire. "And what have you taught me?" Jack smiled. "That's up to you." Later, Kayla stepped outside into the cold. She stood in the clearing, face turned up toward the night sky. Snowflakes fell on her lashes. She could still feel the heat of her pulse, the shaking in her hands from earlier. But there was something else now. A stillness. She had faced them, and won. Not by killing, not by biting, but by choosing not to. Bear padded up behind her and sat beside her feet. Kayla looked down at him and whispered, "Thank you for listening to me." Bear looked up with those golden eyes, gentle, trusting. She bent down and wrapped her arms around his thick neck. "You're not a monster," she whispered. "You're the reason I'm still me." The next morning, Jack woke to the smell of fresh herbs and warm stew. Kayla stood by the fire, stirring a pot. She looked stronger. Her shoulders were straighter and her voice carried more confidence when she said, "Breakfast is ready." He grinned. "Did you poison it?" She rolled her eyes. "I should have." They both laughed. That day, Kayla carved something into the wooden door of the cabin, a symbol from her old culture, an eye with a claw beneath it. In her world, it meant the beast who sees but does not strike. It was her new name for bear. It was her new belief. That night, Jack asked, "What will you do if they come again?" Kayla answered without fear, "I'll stand. With you. And him." Jack nodded. "You know," he said, "you're different now." Kayla smiled. "I was always different. Now I just stopped hiding it." Bear barked once, soft, approving. And when she laid down to sleep, Kayla didn't curl up in the corner anymore. She rested beside the fire, one hand on Bear's fur, eyes closed, body calm, because the monster in the cage was never a monster, and she was never meant to live in one. The girl and the beast, they walked side by side now, not as prisoner and protector, not as girl and beast, but as equals. Kayla's feet pressed gently into the snow, leaving soft footprints behind her. Beside, hers were heavier prints, round and wide. Bear's. The sun was rising behind the trees, casting gold across the world, and for the first time, Kayla wasn't watching the shadows. She was walking toward the light. Winter had softened. Snow still blanketed the forest, but small green tips began poking through the white. Jack said spring was coming. Kayla had never seen spring before. Her old world had only 2 seasons, burning and freezing. Here, the world seemed to breathe between them. Kayla now wore a long brown coat made from cloth she helped stitch. It didn't match, but it was warm. Her hair was brushed, braided by her own hands. Her skin had color again. Each morning she opened the door first, and Bear waited, tail wagging. Tongue out, ready. She no longer feared his teeth, she smiled at them. One day Jack handed her something strange, a thin piece of metal with smooth buttons. "A communicator," he said. "It'll help us call for help in case you're friends. Come back." Kayla took it slowly. "They're not my friends." Jack nodded. "Still, I want you safe." She looked at the small device and then at him. "I already am." The village was a day's walk south. Jack had avoided it for weeks, not sure how people would react to Kayla. But she was ready now. "I want to see how humans live," she said one morning. He hesitated. "They might stare." "I'm used to that," she said with a smirk. Bear led the way. The villagers were cautious at first. Whispers followed them. Children peeked from behind doors. A few older men reached for weapons. But Kayla didn't flinch. She stood tall beside Jack. She let Bear sniff the curious ones. She offered small seeds from her homeworld as gifts. And when one little girl stepped forward and asked, "Are you a monster?" Kayla knelt down and smiled. "No," she said kindly. "But I used to think I was." That child offered her a flower, and everything changed. By the time they returned to the cabin, Kayla was carrying a basket of fresh bread and fruit. "Some monsters you turned out to be," Jack teased. Kayla laughed. "I think I scared them less than Bear did." Bear barked, then fell into the snow, rolling like a playful pup. She tossed a piece of bread at him. He caught it mid-air. Later that night, the stars lit up the sky. No ships, no soldiers, just quiet. Kayla sat outside with Bear's head resting on her lap. She ran her fingers through his fur, thinking aloud. "Back then I thought I needed walls, rules, cages, something to hold me still." Bear looked up, ears twitching. "But it was you," she whispered, "who taught me how to move." She leaned closer. "Not every bite leaves a scar. Some just teach you when not to bite." Inside, Jack cleaned an old map and marked new spots, places Kayla wanted to explore. "We'll start with the valley," he said. "Then maybe the river caves." Kayla's eyes lit up. "And the singing rocks?" "Sure," Jack smiled. "Anywhere you want." She looked around the room. The cabin was small, simple, but to her it was a palace. And Bear, he was the warm fire in the heart of it. That evening she carved another symbol into the wall. 2 figures, one with fur, one without, standing side by side. Jack noticed. "What's this one mean?" Kayla smiled. It means I'm not alone anymore. As she lay down to sleep, Bear curled up beside her. Jack's voice came from the other side of the room. Still scared? She shook her head. No, she whispered. I have a beast beside me. But this one doesn't bite. Jack smiled in the dark. Good, he said. Because he snores. Kayla giggled softly, and for the first time in her life, she fell asleep with a smile. She stayed. It was quiet the morning they came back. No storm, no shouting, no threats. Just a silver ship hovering above the trees, casting a soft blue light across the clearing. Kayla stood in the doorway, her hand resting on Bear's head. Jack was beside her, silent. The ship's voice rang out across the snow, calm and cold. Kayla of Sector 12, your presence is required. This is your final recall. She didn't move, didn't run, didn't hide. Instead, she whispered, They always come back when they think I've forgotten who I am. Jack looked at her. Have you? She turned to him, eyes calm. No, she said. Now I remember exactly who I am. The ship lowered a smooth, glowing ramp. Two figures stepped out, dressed in shining armor, faces hidden under helmets. Between them stood a taller alien. Her robes shimmered, her face sharp and clean. Her voice was smooth like metal. You've lived long enough among predators, the woman said. We offer you safety, structure, purpose. Kayla stared at her. You mean control, obedience, silence. The woman raised her chin. You were born to serve. Kayla stepped forward. No, she said clearly. I was born to choose. The guards raised their hands. Step forward. Return peacefully. Kayla didn't move. I have found peace, she said. It is not with you. Bear growled softly, standing protectively at her side. Jack put a hand on her shoulder. You sure? She nodded once. They think I've forgotten the cages, but now I remember the feeling, not of fear, but of freedom. I remember what the wind feels like on my face, what fire sounds like when it crackles, what trust tastes like in shared food. She smiled. I remember laughter. The alien leader's expression darkened. You would stay here, with a human, with a beast? Kayla looked at Jack, then at Bear, then back at them. Yes, she said, her voice steady, because the beast never put a chain on me. He simply sat beside me until I felt safe. The leader stepped back. You choose exile. Kayla stood tall. I choose home. The woman hesitated, then gave a sharp signal. The guards lowered their weapons. The ship began to rise. No fight, no threats, only silence. As if for the first time even they understood what they had lost. Jack turned to her as the ship disappeared into the clouds. You didn't even hesitate, he said. Kayla smiled gently. I thought I would be scared. But something changed. What? She reached down, brushing Bear's ear. I stopped seeing myself as the weak one, because you both saw more in me than I ever did. That afternoon, Kayla unpacked the small bag she had packed just in case she had left. Then she unpacked her second bag too. She placed a carved stone on the windowsill. It had her name written in Earth's letters. Kayla. Underneath it, a second word. She and Jack sat by the river that evening. The water was high, sparkling with melted snow. Bear splashed around in the shallow edges, chasing fish with clumsy joy. You know, Jack said, a lot of people would have gone with them. Kayla tilted her head. Because of fear? Or comfort? Or easy answers? She shook her head slowly. I don't want easy. I want real. He looked at her. And now that you've chosen this, what's next? Kayla watched Bear tumble into the water and shake it off all over them. She laughed. I think we live. Together. Later, she carved one last symbol into the cabin wall. A heart, but not a soft one. This heart had claws, and beside it, she drew 3 shapes: a girl, a beast, and a human, together, side by side. That night, as the fire glowed and the wind hummed through the trees, Kayla curled up between Jack and Bear. She felt their warmth, their steady breathing. She wasn't running anymore. She had chosen this life. She had chosen them, and when her eyes finally closed, she dreamed of nothing because for the first time ever she had everything.